What is up, everyone? Welcome back to yet another episode of First Date Unsolved. This is our 16th episode and the 6th episode of our second season. This will be the last episode that comes out before I break for the holidays. And I just want to acknowledge and thank everyone who has joined me this year and listened to my dinky little podcast, even if it was just for one episode. There's still plenty more to come, so I hope you all stick around. And I'm aiming for episode 17 and the second half of season 2 to be out on Thursday, February 1st. Things happen sometimes, things come up. Like last week, I didn't have an episode. But right now, February 1st is the plan, so be on the lookout for that. I will announce it as always, or announce any changes as always, but just so you know ahead of time. I've had to get a little creative this second season, with the lack of interviews and things. They're still my favorite. I know you guys like the interviews, so I still work on those, but I've kind of had to put a spin on things and again, just get creative this second season. So there are some new and interesting things to come. So I'm excited for that. I hate to say that. It always feels weird to say I'm excited for this kind of thing and for the content I put out. But I'm still very much passionate about the show. And I'm still very much passionate about helping local families in any way that I can. And speaking of the local families, to the ones that I've had the pleasure of meeting and speaking with so far on this journey, I think about you often. I think about you most of the times daily, and I will continue to hope and pray for all of you. For those of you with unsolved cases and unsolved answers, I hope that one day justice is served. And for those of you, who have received some sort of justice, I know it doesn't change the fact that you're in the situation that you're in, but I hope that it does provide you with some comfort in some way. I think about you guys, and I hope for the best for all of you. I have spoken to some truly amazing people, and the strength and determination that has been displayed is unparalleled. We also have an official website now, so that's pretty cool. It's not much to look at. It's not much different than our social media accounts at the moment, but I am working on creating merch that will be made available for those of you who are interested, and that will be added to the site once everything is finalized. So that's it for the announcements. That's it for my sappiness. With all that being said, I hope everyone has a wonderful end to their 2023, and let's jump into today's case. Today we will be covering a missing persons case. We are going to be talking about Charles Robert Steele, or Bobby to those who knew him. Bobby has not been seen or spoken to by his family since April 11th of this year, 2023. I got the chance to talk to Bobby's sister Kelly, and she's obviously very concerned about her brother's welfare. She manages to power through the days, working her job, but at night, when she gets home, she is consumed with trying to track down information about her brother and where he might be. You'll get to hear from her. I did get to, interview with her and her husband, so you'll get to hear a little bit from them, which I was excited about. And, they seemed very excited about this opportunity as well. They thanked me, which always blows me away. Why are you thanking me? I should be thanking you, but you'll get to hear a little bit from Kelly in just a minute. Charles Robert Steele was born on November 25th, 1979, which means that he will be turning 44 next week. Here's a clip of Kelly talking about how it was growing up with Bobby.
So it's so funny because growing up, I was like, we did not grow up with money. Like, we grew up with probably the poorest kids in town. But he just was popular. He had this charismatic personality that everybody just loved. I, on the other hand, still to this day, people don't love me automatically. But he was cool. Any sport he wanted to play, he picked up a bat. He was an excellent baseball player, skateboards, everything. Me, I couldn't play a sport to save my life. So we were complete opposites, but I always thought he was like the really cool kid. And like, lo and behold, when he was here in April, he's like, I thought you were the really cool kid. All I wanted to do was hang out with you guys. And I was like, I didn't even have any friends. You had all the friends. So he, he made fun wherever he went. Again, really, really good at sports. During a traumatic like childhood, like that was his outlet. And then as a teenager, we moved from Smyrna, Delaware. That's where we grew up with our dad. To Newark. And so we moved up here, and he got really involved in sports, and he was like on all-star baseball, everything, excelled in all of it. Yeah, I mean, and funny enough, like he never gave up on it. Even when he was like later in life, in trouble, like making all the mistakes he made, he still kept pitching. He still kept telling himself one day, and he was pitching 95-mile-an-hour fastballs, like when he was like 38 years old. So he I don't think he as much lost it when he was 13, 14 as he lost the confidence because of the scars. Kids are mean. And the surgeries were to even do like an inch, of his arm to do a skin graft. You have to take it from some other part of his body, which is, he was a skinny kid anyway. So it's just the pain from that, just to do tiny portions at a time. He gave up on doing that.
At the age of 13, Bobby was involved in a pretty bad accident where he suffered severe burns on a significant portion of his body, which led to him spending 6 weeks at Crozier Chester Medical Center. This event would end up changing the rest of his life. Because insurance companies are the way that they are, Bobby's mom ended up filing a lawsuit and won a lump sum of $400,000 in the late 90s. With inflation, that amount would equal out to about $725,000 today. So either way you look at it, $400,000 or $725,000, that is a significant chunk of change. Bobby would gain access to those funds when he was around 16 or 17 years old, which was a recipe for disaster. Just like any other kid that age would do, Bobby spent money on the finer things, including cars, clothes, and jewelry. He also started hanging around with people who were attracted to those kind of things, and those usually aren't the people that you want to hang around to begin with. Once drugs were added to the equation, a series of bad decisions landed Steele in jail for 3 years. Bobby hadn't committed any violent crimes or anything like that. He stole a CD from a home at some point and just kept violating probation because he couldn't stay off of drugs long enough to keep a clear head. So the judge finally said, enough is enough. You need to learn your lesson. Having nothing but time to think about his life for 3 years really did seem to help, because Bobby did a 180 and got back on track when he got out of prison. He was working, he was clean, he had his own place, and he was thriving. But this rebound period wouldn't last long. The roller coaster ride that was Bobby's life started on a downward path after he met a young woman on Facebook. The two communicated online for some time and eventually decided to meet up in person. Nothing was ever the same after that day. In 2019, a friend of Bobby's contacted Kelly to see if she had heard from him because he had been MIA for a long period of time. The kind, fun, and charismatic young man essentially fell off the face of the earth, and this was just the first time. One thing that stands out is, sadly, Bobby's mom passed away while he was in prison. Kelly explained that their mother was Bobby's best friend, and losing her deeply impacted him. Not being able to mourn properly or grieve fully can have lasting physical and emotional effects on a person. Unprocessed grief can lead to long-term conditions like anxiety and depression. But even short-term, your ability to function at your best is compromised. You might find that you're more irritable, less focused, and even less creative when you're carrying the burden of unaddressed grief. We don't know the specific reasoning behind his diagnosis, but Bobby was diagnosed with a severe case of depression at some point in his adult life. Very severe, debilitating even. Depression can be brought on by all kinds of things, but losing someone that important in your life, has consequences. One can presume that Bobby was in a very vulnerable position, whether he knew it or not, and he was taken advantage of, because when he was finally found, he was homeless, living in a wooded area in Elkton. For someone who likes nice things and put a lot of effort into his appearance, being homeless and taking refuge in the woods was so out of character for Bobby. Kelly said that even at his worst, her brother cared too much about what others thought of him to ever live that way. So what the hell happened? It turns out that the woman Bobby hooked up with was not who she seemed to be. Details are limited, but during their long, tumultuous relationship, Kelly is confident that her brother was subjected to mistreatment and manipulation. In March of this year, Bobby sent his sister a message. This message, you don't hear the message, she reads it. It's like through, text or Facebook Messenger. But the message sent chills down my spine, and I'm not even kidding. Halfway through Kelly reading what she received, my jaw dropped. You won't be able to see it because I don't post video, but my jaw literally dropped. It's quite concerning.
Okay, I'm going to read you this message. It's kind of long. Okay. So my brother sent me this on March 20th at 5:50 p.m. I was in the Philadelphia airport with my husband getting ready to board a flight to Ireland, so I couldn't do anything about it. But he says, Kelly, will you please give me a call when you get a chance? It's kind of urgent. I know that you're very busy, and I respect that. It's just that I broke up with Lisa, that's ex-girlfriend, today, and it's finished. Also, I'm in between places to live at the moment, so I'm on the street literally. Please understand that I'm not asking you for money or anything else. I am a grown man, and I'm currently waiting for paperwork, basically for a place of my own, which will be subsidized. So I will take care of all of that. What I'm asking you to do is simply call me on a message or video call, or whichever app you use, let me know, like every couple of days for a quick call, in order for you to acknowledge I'm alive and well. Remember when you were trying to find me? That was what I mentioned in 2019. You thought something maybe happened to me or something didn't sit right with you. I think you were absolutely right. And I think there may be a few more people involved and a little more to it, but I don't care to figure any of it out. I just need to make sure people know that I have family that will look for me if I disappear. That in itself should be sufficient, because I'm sure people without that and from another state and with my kind of past are exactly who they target. No need for anyone to panic, but Kelly, please do this for me if you're able. I love you, sis. I always have and always will. Even though I was a piece of shit most of my life, I'm not one now. Please understand I'm not playing around or anything. So if you are not able to video call me for a minute or two every couple of days for a minute or so, please let me know in all caps so I can try to at least find another way to get out of Maryland. I know it's a long message, but please read. And I was like, I'm getting ready to board this flight. Like, I can have one of our aunts do it. And then he's just like, I'm cool, Cal. Thanks. Have a safe flight. So when I got home, I reached out to him April 1st. I said, I'm home, ready to help you try to figure your life out. And then I was in Richmond, and he wanted me to call him. We talked. I was going to pick him up on April 5th. No, April 7th. April 5th, I was going down to Richmond for training. April 7th, I was going to come home and pick him up in Elkton. She smashed the phone between those 2 days. So I was on my way to Elkton, and I could not get a hold of him. So that was Friday, April 7th. April 9th was Easter. He had gotten another phone and managed to message me and asked me to please come and get him. And I did. And I found him on a corner in Elkton, terrified. So, like, that, not the ramblings of a drug addict. Like, it was very well written. It was factual. Right. He was scared when he got here on April 9th, terrified.
In the days leading up to his disappearance, Bobby and Kelly were busy mapping out his life and making plans so that he could move forward. He was reuniting with family who he had been estranged from for years. He had housing in place and was set to move in very soon. And he was happy to be out of yet another bad situation and heading into the right direction. On April 11th, after a long and busy day, Kelly sat outside to decompress and to look into phone plans for her brother. Around 5:30 p.m., Kelly's husband walks out to let her know that Bobby had just left, but said he would be back. On the Ring camera, they could see him leave, and he seemed fine because he was humming. Here's Kelly's recollection of that night.
And he calls me about 2 hours later on Facebook, like the Facebook audio, because he didn't have a phone plan. He had, just Wi-Fi.
Right.
And he's like, hey, how long did it take you to realize I was gone? And I was like, a second, stupid. Like, I have a ring camera. Like, I watched you walk out the door. And he was like, oh. And he said this oddest thing. I said, where'd you go? Like, I'm so mad at you. And he's like, I told you I was going to meet my boy on Market Street. And I said, what? No, you didn't. And he said it again, like, very pronounced. Like, I told you I was going to meet my boy. And I was like, no, you didn't. You're disrespectful. I was so mad at him at this point. You know, older sister, brother. I'm like, walked out. We were doing everything for you. Like, I'm yelling at him. He's like, so you're, and pardon my cussing right now. He said, so you're saying you're not fucking with me anymore? And I said, I didn't say that. And he said it again. And then he said, I called you on video just because so you can see where I am. He didn't call me on video. So all these things now, like, sit in my head, like, was he saying this person's name for a reason? Because he certainly didn't tell me that that's where he was going, because he didn't tell me he was going anywhere. So I didn't know he was leaving, and like, he never came.
That call was the last call Kelly ever had from her brother. Bobby fell off the face of the earth for a second and final time. After Kelly reported Bobby missing, or let me rephrase that, after she tried to report him missing, she was met with resistance, which is not uncommon from what I've heard since I started conducting interviews earlier this year. Delaware State Police advised that this was a county issue. Because Bobby is a grown man and is able to come and go as he pleases, Newcastle County was not willing to help in any way until another family member pulled some strings. Newcastle County's missing persons team contacted Elkton's missing persons team, and Kelly has been in touch with a detective from Elkton ever since then. I'm just going to step up on a soapbox here really, really quick, just to say that it shouldn't be about who you know when it comes to situations like this. If Bobby's family didn't have the ties that they have in law enforcement, his disappearance would likely never have been looked into. How messed up is that? Okay, so I'm going to step down now because we need to wrap this up. We didn't go too into detail on how and what exactly Elkton is investigating. One, because Kelly is only given so much information. And two, she's only willing to provide me with so much information, which I completely understand because, you know, guys, I've said it here before, I'm not here to interfere in any way. I'm just here to help. Our conclusion is that Bobby is a victim of something far bigger than anyone would have initially predicted. Something sinister is going on, and Bobby is not likely the only victim. Anyone can fall victim to master manipulation, especially when they are not in a good headspace to begin with. Again, I don't know the details of what's being looked into, what exactly is being investigated. I will just say this. According to the Department of Homeland Security, human trafficking involves the use of force, fraud, or coercion to obtain some type of labor or commercial sex act. Every year, millions of men, women, and children are trafficked worldwide, including right here in the United States. It can happen in any community, and victims can be any age, race, gender, or nationality. Traffickers might use the following methods to lure victims into trafficking situations: violence, manipulation, false promises of well-paying jobs, and romantic relationships. I won't go too far into this, but I do know for a fact that the tri-state area we are in is prime human trafficking real estate. Delaware, New Jersey, Maryland, states right here near ports on the East Coast. I do know romantic relationships are used more often than you would think. It's really tragic. It's awful. Just thought I would put that information out there. Just, be careful, everyone. Kelly describes herself as no nonsense. Her and her brother went years without speaking to each other because she didn't support or approve of the way he was living his life at one point. Even though she wasn't very happy with him for a long time, she did not have not one bad thing to say about her brother during the 40 or so minutes that we spoke. She told me about times when he would see an animal being mistreated and he would step in with no worries for his own safety or the law. He would track down rescues to help the animals find homes they deserved. And that alone, that trait alone says a lot to me about the type of person that he was. She would also go on to say that he had a heart of gold and the kindest soul. People reach out to her regularly, and none of them have anything bad to say about Bobby. No one has anything bad to say about him. Kelly's husband sat with her the entire time we were speaking, and he even felt compelled to speak on behalf of Bobby towards the end of the interview.
The entire time he was here, he was trying to organize his life and try to figure out what he was going to do next with his life. He wanted to do contracting. He wanted to do, and we talked to him about how he might be able to do some of that stuff for himself. And so he had a purpose and a plan going forward. So him disappearing made no sense from the depression standpoint. Everything, as Kelly mentioned, was falling in line. The housing voucher came in line. He reconnected with his sister, which they hadn't talked and spoken in so much time. He saw his aunts, who he hadn't seen in a great deal of time. And I think that from that standpoint, what happened after that, whatever it might have been, I don't think it was something of his own choosing, because I think he was ready to get back on the map and start doing stuff for himself.
Okay, so he was, rebuilding relationships, rebuilding his life.
Yeah, and one of the other things Kelly had mentioned is that all these people have said so much positive stuff about Bobby, and everything that they said, it was all very positive. For somebody who had been involved in drugs and involved in crime, all these things that you immediately start to categorize people.
Right.
He did not fit that kind of category from the standpoint of his outlook on life. He was very upbeat.
Or people's outlook on him.
The people. He might have been homeless, but he'd give up whatever he had to somebody who he thought needed it.
I don't know what Bobby's gotten into. I don't know the people he know what they're into. I don't know. His family kind of has some idea. Investigators have some kind of idea, but it's just very sad. It's very unfortunate that I said this to Kelly. It seemed like every time Bobby had something good going for him, it's like the rug was pulled out from underneath of him. It's just awful. I'm very sorry for him. I do hope that he is found safely, and I hope he's found very soon. I hope that Kelly continues to get the support that she needs. Life hasn't always been easy for her either. And I just know she's very, very strong for taking all of this on her own. And I know it's not easy. I want to thank Kelly and her husband for agreeing to sit down with me and speak to me, about Bobby. Just like all the other families, I'm hoping and praying for you guys. I wish nothing but the best for you all. And if you do have any information that you think may be helpful in finding Bobby, you can reach out to the Elkton Police Department by calling 410-398-4200. And you can always contact Crime Stoppers anonymously. Please stay safe, everyone. Happy holidays to you all. As always, if you thought nothing ever happened here, you thought wrong.